I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year.
Charlie Kirk's legacy deserves no mourning. There it is. And it's an op-ed, okay? And it's a great op-ed. It's worthy of a read. Now, what's crazy about this is all of these MAGA people are like screaming about this thing. They saw this thing and they're like, she's gonna get sued for defamation. And it's like, first off, suing somebody who writes an op-ed for defamation is like ridiculous. And secondly, they don't know. They don't know anything. They're so stupid. Dude, irrational. Great way of putting it. Irrational about everything. What's really interesting about this, guys, is how they will say to us that, like, facts over feelings. Remember their little saying, facts over feelings? Everything they do is motivated by some ginormous overreaction to their feelings. Like, they're mad that Charlie Kirk got killed, and they're very hurt. They're ready to just cry their eyes out. They feel so lost and let down because he's gone, and they're so rageful, but then they think everybody who says something bad is now one of his murderers because they just can't even regulate their simple fucking emotions. They're so emotionally dysregulated. Everything they do is based on some like ginormous overreaction to their feelings. It says Charlie Kirk's legacy deserves no mourning. The white Christian nationalist provocateur wasn't a promoter of civil discourse. He preached hate, bigotry, and division. And I'm going to follow up at the end of this. I'm going to read you something that I wrote earlier today that I think applies to this as well. All right. Charles James Kirk, 31, died on Wednesday from a gunshot to the neck at Utah Valley University campus event just as he was trying to deflect a question about mass shootings by suggesting they were largely a function of gang violence. He died with a net worth of $12 million, which he made by espousing horrific and bigoted views in the name of advancing Christian nationalism. The foundation of his empire was the group he co-founded and led, Turning Point USA, which is a key youth recruitment arm of the MAGA movement. Kirk was able to launch Turning Point at the age of 18 because he received money from Tea Party member Bill Montgomery, right-wing donor Foster Feist, and his own father, also a prolific right-wing donor. By the way, he came from money, which is why he can, quit community college and shit, right? Because he's got that prolific right-wing donor dad, okay? He was an unrepentant racist, transphobe, homophobe, and misogynist who often wrapped his bigotry in Bible verses because there was no other way to pretend that it was morally correct. Many of the facile defenses of Kirk and his legacy are predicated on the idea that it's acceptable to spread hateful ideas, advocating for the persecution of perceived enemies as long as you dress them up in the posture of debate. Now, can we talk about this, guys? This right here is important because this is one of the things that we have somehow let happen in our culture, okay? Because of this idea of like everything being an opinion and people with shitty opinions cop the idea that every opinion is valid. So what we have decided is that if you're showing up to debate and you're creating entertaining content, it's okay if one of those sides is completely outrageous. See, Jubilee, okay? Jubilee puts people on there that have the shittiest, most outrageous, most crazy fringe right-wing ideas out there, and they will match them up with a sensible, legitimate leftist, and they're like, but we're having a debate. And then you have all this drama and you have all this content. But the fact of the matter is those people with those horrific, homophobic, transphobic, racist, and fascist views, their views are dog shit. They're harmful. They hurt marginalized people. They're toxic. People are dying because of that type of philosophy. And so you put them in a Jubilee debate And what you're doing is you're giving breath to a bunch of toxic, harmful, negative shit. Those ideas are not valid. Ideas that other and marginalized swaths of the country, especially the most vulnerable, those are not legitimate ideas. Okay, that's toxicity. And you put them into a debate with a legitimate left-wing streamer or whatever, left-wing debater, left-wing political figure, and it does not make those ideas legitimate. But we've done that. We allow these crazy freaks to spread their fringe, flat earther level political opinions inside these debates. And Jubilee is one of the worst offenders. The man who said black women do not have brain processing power to be taken seriously, you have to go steal a white person's slot, said it while wearing a nice shirt and tie on a podcast instead of tattered overalls in the parking lot of a rural Walmart. That does not make it any less racist. And again, guys, part of the reason why Charlie Kirk got away with being a racist, homophobic, bigot, transphobe, the reason he got away with it is because he used the Bible. Okay, he went in and he espoused scripture, which says, hey guys, I believe in the same religion as you. I'm on your side. I'm one of the good guys. I'm one of the devout, pious believers. Now I'm going to say this insane shit about black women, and you're going to listen to it because I am from this really good religion, and therefore I am like a saint. I'm one of the good guys. Okay? He used religion as a fucking cover, bro. It's like his religion was the sheep costume, and inside was his wolf snout. It's true that we cannot know what was in Charlie Kirk's heart because we are not telepathic, but we can make reasonable inferences based on the things he said and did publicly because we are also not colossally stupid. He built a large following and acquired real political power saying these things to young people, to the president and his minions, to deep pocket right-wing donors. And there are far too many people who have been ready to suggest that he was able to do this through a combination of natural charisma and good old-fashioned hard work. Speaking about and addressing the late Texas Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, who is black, he said, it's very obvious to us that you are not smart enough to be able to get it on your own. I could not make it on my own, so I needed to take opportunities from someone more deserving. That's what he said to a black woman who was a glass ceiling breaker. Okay, Kirk was smart enough to ask his father for a check when he wanted to found Turning Point, and had always been happy to curtail opportunities for more deserving people when they failed to conform to his own ideology. It's this that makes it particularly galling to see him cast by some as a free speech warrior. He created a professor watch list explicitly designed to get academics fired who dared talk about the right's usual assortment of verboten topics, anything to do with race or gender in particular. He also offered the standard right-wing plaint about left-wing indoctrination in American universities, even as he went on campus tours trying to indoctrinate young people into his hard right Christian nationalist worldview. I'm sorry for Kirk's children. I don't know if Kirk was a good father, but if he was, that does little to mitigate the damage he did to other people's children. I can only hope for the sake of his kids that they have role models who will teach them that it is wrong to profit off the dehumanization of people because of who they are. When asked about the mass shootings, he said,
I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational. Nobody talks like this. They live in a complete alternate universe.
Perhaps Kirk did not believe that his own life would be cut short by gun violence. But like the rest of us, he has witnessed countless school shootings. When he said some gun deaths are acceptable, he surely knew he lived in a country where the deaths he deemed acceptable included those of children, some of whom were the age of his own. There is no inherent virtue in caring about your own children. That is the bare minimum requirement for effective parenting. Virtue lies in caring about the safety and well-being of children you don't know. And I believe that's true, guys. Caring about and protecting your own family is not virtuous. That's just a fucking baseline, okay? Caring about and protecting everybody around you, that's where the virtue lies. The virtue isn't like me making sure my family can eat and get a good education. The virtue is making sure all families, right, including the families that don't have my resources or my skin color or my paid off house, making sure those people can eat and get a good education, okay? On that front, I'm fairly sure Kirk did not care about my child. My child lives in Brooklyn, Elizabeth says, in a progressive family. His mother works and does not have a marriage where she is considered inferior to her husband or required to obey him, as Kirk arrogantly told Taylor Swift she should do after learning of her engagement. Reject feminism, he said. You're not in charge. Ew. All right. We also live in a Haitian immigrant neighborhood. And if you only listen to Charlie Kirk, you might be under the impression that my neighbors eat pets. You would also be encouraged to believe that simply by virtue of being non-white immigrants, they were replacing white people, and that since they are also black, they are dangerous. Happening all the time in urban America, he said. Prowling blacks go around for fun to go target white people. That's a fact. That's what Charlie Kirk said. I do not believe anyone should be murdered because of their views, but that is because I don't believe people should be murdered generally, regardless of who or what they've done. I'm against the death penalty, pro-gun control, and believe war is a failure of humanity, not a necessary byproduct of it. Kirk was fine with murder as long as the right people were dying. And that's true of all the right-wing guys. They are fine with murder if it's people they deem worthy of dying. Whereas for me, I don't believe in any kind of murder. I don't think cops should be committing murder. I don't think soldiers should be committing murder. Certainly no death penalty. You can't tell people killing is wrong and then you fucking kill them with the death penalty. And someone committing a horrible crime doesn't mean you commit a horrible crime back to them, right? On them. None of that shit makes it worthwhile. Some of the people valorizing Kirk insist that all of his toxicity was acceptable because at least he was open to debate. And dude, we hear this a lot, right? They say that, oh yeah, forget about all his negativity. He was open to debate. But again, I don't think you should be open to debate toxic, harmful ideas because they're not worth debating. Okay? There's no frame of debating toxic, harmful ideas that other marginalized people. Why would you even debate it? It's just inhumane. It's counter to humanity. Okay? It's counter to any type of unity and togetherness. Turning Point did not work to bring people together. No, it did not. It worked to bring about a country where anyone who wasn't a white Christian nationalist wasn't welcome. And that's it, guys. It did not try to bring people together. Okay? It didn't. It said, if you're not one of us, you're shit. Okay? She says, I won't celebrate his death, but I'm not obligated to celebrate his life either. Okay? And isn't that beautiful? What a beautiful fucking piece of work. What is up, guys? Thank you so much for watching. You like the video, you want to support independent resistance media, you know what to do. Drop that sub, hit the like button, and please share it. And we do love our members, so if you want to become a member, it's another really great way to support. Thanks again for everything, guys. I'll see you next time. Let's go.